Hi, very good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here. I trust you've had an insightful event so far. And before I introduce the artists, I would like to invite all of them on stage, not one by one. I think come up here and join me while I introduce you as well. We have with us Annice, Red, as well as Nadirah. All right. Okay. Because we're a visual art panel, I'm going to use quite a bit of visuals to sort of introduce the artists. And I will start with, first up we have Annice. Annice used to be an architecture graduate, a former national figure skater, an award-winning documentary and sports photographer. And her interest in photography lies in being able to document and represent social issues of our times. For example, a project that she did during COVID-19, during the pandemic, saw her capturing the struggles of the Rohingya people, refugee families. As a sports photographer, Annice is the only Malaysian female accredited for the Winter Olympic Games by covering the 2018 Pyongyang Winter Olympics. Annice has also co-founded WPM, or Women Photographers Malaysia, a platform for female photographers to meet and basically network and collaborate. Next, we have Nadirah Zakariya, who pursued photography at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York, FIT, moving on to work in commercial photography for publications such as Nylon, Vice, as well as Vogue. Subsequently, she found her personal artistic voice in art photography through projects such as her Vertiligo series, a project that explores the beauty and uniqueness of individuals living with vertiligo, aiming to destigmatize the condition and represent people with vertiligo. And one of her more recent series was the MCO lockdown-inspired Floral Studies, which was recognized internationally and featured in 2022's Flora Photographica International Publication by Thames and Hudson. Completing the panel, we have Red Hong Yi, or Red, who is actually originally from Sabah. Red is also an architect graduate, and after completing her studies, discovered her artistic self in Shanghai, where she created meticulous large-scale artworks with non-traditional materials. One of her more famous works include crafting an image of Jackie Chan's himself, right, using 64,000 disposable bamboo chopsticks commissioned by Jackie and actually shown in Beijing. Now based in Malaysia, Red has since founded Studio Red Hong Yi, a creative hub where she and her team conceptualize and produce art projects to highlight cultural, social, and environmental themes. One of her more notable projects include being featured on the cover of Time magazine, April 2021 issue, with a visual representation of the world map using 50,000 green tip matchsticks, which was then lit on fire to symbolize the urgent threat of climate change. Incidentally, this photograph was also featured by Annice. Yeah? So I would like to say welcome, ladies, and thank you for taking the time to be with us here today. Given that each of you have actually traveled and had the opportunity to travel and live in many places around the world, I'd like to use this panel to sort of talk about exploring how travel has been a catalyst for your artistic and personal journeys. Yeah? I will start with some quotes. So I think the first thing I did was Google each artist and the word travel, just to see what is out there and what they've actually said about travel. I've also picked up some of their quotes, and I think starting with Red. Red, you've mentioned that travel is a way for me to explore different cultures and materials. Every place I go, I try to see what I can find that can inspire me to create something unique. And that word unique, I would like to bring it back to you. How could you elaborate? How do you create unique works from your travel? For example, you've stayed in New York, you've been in Shanghai, you've been in KL. So if you could elaborate on how some of these places have actually inspired your works.
Thank you so much, Sharmin. Hello, everyone. I think when it comes to creating works and the word unique, it is really about seeing things that might be familiar to you in your culture, but it might not be familiar to me, and it's really refreshing. So an example is when I lived in Shanghai, so I worked there as a graduate architect, and I reconnected with my roots. So my dad's side is from Shanghai. I saw the way people hung laundry off a bamboo pole. It wasn't like they threw it in the dryer. We lived in a really old terrace house, so they had to stick it off a bamboo pole and then like hang it out the window. And to me, that was really novel. That was like, wow, I've never seen it done this way before. So I think that's what is fascinating about travel. It shows you how other people from different cultures live their life. It might be the same thing, like eating a bowl of, I don't know, noodles, for example, to hanging laundry, but it's done differently, and it would give you a more rounded and like, I guess, a fresh perspective on life.
All right, and moving on to Annice. As a visual storyteller, travel informs your, I'm quoting Annice. As a visual storyteller, travel informs your understanding of diverse stories, enabling you to create visuals that resonate with authenticity. And I think in today's world where all of us have a handphone, whether you're using an iPhone or a Xiaomi, right, which is what we have outside, and all of us take photos. So how do you actually define an authentic photo in your view, or an authentic view?
Right, thanks for the question. And hi, everyone. Thanks for really carving out your time to spend on a Sunday afternoon with us. How do I find, like, to create an authentic visual? I think first thing comes to first, like, for me, I am a long-time learner. I'm always very curious. So, like, instead of, like, sometimes looking at movies or certain movies, and I'll go, like let's say one of my favorite movies is Memoirs of Geisha. So instead of watching it, I was like, oh, I was really inspired to go to Japan to actually see things for myself and actually start talking to people. And me, myself, I'm an introvert, so that's something that I always wanted to. I was very like intentional being recognized that, okay, what is it about me that stops me for traveling the world and all, and what do I need to change? And for that, I wanted to use travel as a teacher to allow me to break through. Yeah.
Okay. I'd also like to share a visual that I think Annice sort of brought up, where you sort of told me how you actually looked at trying to get Michelle Yeoh, how you photographed Michelle Yeoh. If you could tell us the story of how you found this photo.
I guess as a visual storyteller, for us, like whether you're using a phone or a camera, all the visual came out as the same. But for me, what I learned to treat it authentically is I always have a keyword. So this was actually an assignment, which added a layer of stress. But if you're there on that day, then you would feel like, oh, I just want to see Michelle Yeoh because she brought home a prize. So on that day, it's Michelle Yeoh as a Malaysian homecoming. So while understanding that majority of my peers or my colleagues are down there, as you can see from the far right, and I wanted to capture it differently. Like in my mind, the keyword is homecoming, which led to the idea from the next slide that says that, okay, homecoming, and understanding it's not just a photo we are taking, but also studying the environment. So I have 2 hours waiting out for her arrival. That's where I know that, okay, with my architecture practices as well, I kind of knew how the layout or the floor plan of pavilion is like. And as she descends the stairs, that's where I take the risk of not waiting at the stairs or be as close to her. I decided to wait at the escalator so I can photograph, and it feels like everybody is reaching out to her and how proud the country is at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think this photo was actually quite internationally recognized. It was picked up. Of course, Annice also works with Getty, so this photo became quite circulated, especially when Michelle won the Oscars. Yeah.
By the end of the day, Michelle, because I think her PR team was subscribed to Getty as well. Yeah. So at the end of the day, she posted that photo from her social media using that exact same photo.
Yeah. And I think moving on to Nadirah, I quite like when I Googled Nadirah and travel, I picked up on her comments of traveling makes her feel experiences of being an outsider, feelings of not being neither here nor there, And initially we had a bit of a discussion where we had the words displacement and lost as well. Yeah, and could you sort of elaborate how does
In the middle.
being neither here nor there fuel your creativity?
Thank you, Sharmin. Hi, everybody. I'm kind of nervous. I don't know why. These are like amazing women on stage with me and everybody that's been here yesterday and today. So thank you, Zafigo. Yeah, when I travel, I think Noelle mentioned this earlier, the feeling of being anonymous. And I think when I'm away, I can hear myself more, I can hear my thoughts more, and I think as a person, as an artist, that helps me have a clearer vision of my voice. So I always enjoy going somewhere where I like traveling alone, so I can kind of observe and find clarity in what I want to do in terms of my art or my personal self-growth.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All right. And I think I picked up another statement, and I think it was from you, Nadirah, where you mentioned you express, with travel, you express your gratitude for strong connections that you form during your travel, especially with women across different countries during your travels. So I think this is a question I'd open to all. Could you share a significant encounter with someone or people who you've met during your travels who have made you change your views, your perspective, or your ways of thinking?
What happens?
Oh my God. I think everyone I meet, like through travels or every day, even like the women in the room today, it's definitely like make my life more enriching. But I think it's really hard to choose specifically like one specific person, but I think one memorable encounter that I had was with an artist named Kana Kawasako. I met her in Yakushima, a small island in the south of Japan, at a photo festival. And we connected through photography. She works with a lot of nature photography, and I incorporate nature elements into my works. So this friendship began. A year later, I decided to do an artist residency in Sapporo, where she's from, where over there I got to learn her deeper, learn more about her culture, where she grew up, and understand her practices, which then led to like a joint residency thing where she was able to come here and did a residency with Temu House and Bonton in Langkawi. So I think through travels, we meet people. Even through my recent trip to Art Jakarta, I met amazing women as well. Yeah, and I think that's like the beautiful thing about traveling and meeting people.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's interesting you brought up Kana, because I think we meet a lot of people, we talk to a lot of people. Usually when we travel, we go out there and we're open to anything, ideas, creativity, but when we come back, we tend to forget about it, you know? But I think with Nadirah and Kana, as soon as she came back, she actually gave me a call and she says, I've got this Japanese artist, I want to bring her over. Can I use Temu House? I've contacted Langkawi and Bonton. She's coming over, I need a... Yeah. So I think it's not only about meeting people, but also, that's why I say, taking the opportunity to do something about it. So Kana came down, we met her, we did an exhibition with her. Now she's gone back. And I'm still keeping in touch with her to see whether she wants to do another project here.
And she made a whole exhibition now that's exhibiting in Sapporo with the theme of her experience in Malaysia.
Yes, I think it's called Langkah Hadapan or Masa Hadapan.
Masa Hadapan, yeah.
In
So
Japan.
I think, we're inspired by amazing stories and people all the time.
Yeah. And Hong-Yi, Red or Annice, do you have any stories to share?
I think for me, it's always, when it comes to traveling, growing up, I don't want to be like the juara kampong. So despite like however we think we're good at, so it's like, I don't want to be a big fish in a small pond, but more so a small fish in a big pond. That's where, for example, I think this year by far is the most that I've traveled. And one of the most memorable experiences, even when I travel, I feel like a lot of people are willing to help. as in like, not say Malaysian that nobody wants to help you, but I think it's the friendliness or how open you are and how you bring back different things. And sometimes when you come back, your friends will be like, oh, you seem happier, you seem you have a different glow. Yeah, it's for that. So yeah.
And Red, anyone you've met or encountered who has changed the way you sort of do things?
Yeah, for sure. I think in my 20s I traveled a lot, and I'm glad I got that out of my system in my 20s and before I had a child. So now with a almost 1-year-old, it's of course it's a little bit trickier. It requires a lot of planning, but it's really fun at the same time. I think one of the stories I wanted to bring up was I think when I was exploring my art of making all these installations with a lot of objects. It started in China because I saw the manufacturing power of China at the time, and suddenly, because things were sold at such an affordable price, with my graduate salary, I could afford to buy a lot of objects to build. And I remember like just buying like 2,000 socks. It was so cheap. It was only a few cents to just buy these socks, and then just stitching it up in this old alleyway. And then neighbors started to come over to help me stitch it together. So I thought, oh, it's like a nice collaborative community project, right? It started to feel really nice. Until one of the ladies there said, and she was in her probably 60s, she said, well, during my time when I was your age, I wasn't allowed to do this because we were under Mao rule and everyone had to own one pair of socks only. So this is like mind-boggling to see this amount. And I kind of just stared back at her and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Is this like really insensitive? So I think at the time I was so caught up in, okay, what do I want to express? What do I want to show? That was when I realized that I had to also give respect and understand where people are coming from, the history and culture and context. So that was a very kind of jarring, like sudden realization. And she was like, oh, no, we've gone through all that. We've changed so much. I just want to tell you where I'm from. So I think at the time I realized that as an artist, I had to also really do my research and show respect and understand where people are coming from. And I'm a visitor of that place.
Yeah. Right. Thanks for that. And I think when it comes to travel and creativity, we experience a lot. And then I sort of asked myself, how do I capture these moments? I used to write quite a bit. I don't anymore ever since owning a handphone. You know, everything is just step. In fact, I think you take it for granted. You take it for granted how fast you can capture moments that you don't sit there and internalize, you know? So anyway, that's a note to myself to try and start writing again. So what I did was I actually asked each of the artists to say, how do you capture your moments? Can I have a peek inside your travel journals or your sketch pads or what you have in your phones? And I told them to just send it all to me, and I sort of compiled each of what we have. And I think I will start with Annice. I think you've sent some of these visuals. Yeah. So if you want to take us through what you do.
So I'm a huge Disney fan, so I'm not sure any of you ladies are a Disney fan out here. Yep. Yeah. So,
Sorry, what fan?
Disney.
Oh, Disney. Okay, got it. Yeah.
So, for me, also understanding as a photojournalist, I often travel for work, and recently I really begin to discuss, to really ask myself that, am I working hard or am I hardly working? That kind of situation. So, I have made it a conscious decision that sometimes while I travel for work, I would like to really maybe lengthen a little bit of time to actually let my emotion and my heart to catch up with me. So if you travel for work, you feel like, oh, you're just a bypasser, like touch and go. Like usually we'll be like, okay, fly into the country when you fly out. Yeah. So being able to sketch, and this was quite a while ago during my architecture days, that I'm able, whether if it's work or just going for case study and all, I wanted to really park the time to just sketch for that. Yeah.
Another sketching.
So this one is just you know that you always do like photography for flat lay, and this time I'm like, oh, let's just try to sketch it based on memory and see like, oh, what are the things that you go inside, and then we are quite nosy in a sense of like, oh, I want to see what's in your travel bag and stuff. Yeah. So I think with work catching up, as of late, I rarely sketch. But sometimes it's nice to, even as a photographer, sometimes it's nice to have like a handy dandy cell phone and to just remember how chaos your life like while you're, this photo in particular gives me a sense of like, while I'm photographing something that is really beautiful and still, I was actually covering a figure skating event, but I also like to have a few raw moments, like while you love to capture photos for social media nowadays, but I make to a point that I wanted to capture photos just for myself.
All right, and I'm moving on to Red next, all right? What you put in your travel journal folder.
Oh, okay. So this is a compilation of diaries that I had from high school to, I think that's a diary I had when I think just graduated. So it's a bunch of stuff from, you know, which boy broke my heart to like which place really inspired me. I think so. The one in the forefront is like one of my earlier ones. The ones in the back, the one with the bluish greenish background. That's my high school journals.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. So this one on the left, that was a sketch I did of the first time I traveled to Florence. I think this was like more than 10 years ago. I was really just amazed by the architecture in the city. On the right, let me explain that one. So that was like,
I was a bit hesitant on putting that one in, but I'm like, no, I need to know about this one.
Okay, I think I was in LA at the time, and this was, I was with a bunch of friends, American friends, who were talking about Trump and Kim Jong-un, I believe. So it's, who do you see?
Okay.
And then this is, so I guess I like patterns, I like repetition when it comes to art. A lot of my stuff is about repeating things, stamping things, and this is just a couple of cross-sections of vegetables that I picked up from the market. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw this and I thought back of school.
Like pendidikan seni visual.
Yeah.